Let's continue with visual diagnosis inspection. Now we talk about person's clothing. Visual diagnosis of a person's clothing. A person's attire can relay useful information, but we must also pay attention to factors such as fashion and the identity statements of subcultures. One of the first things that we can focus our attention on is how much clothing the person is wearing and how appropriate this is for the climate. This will give an indication of heat and cold from an 8 principles perspective. A person with an excess of heat will usually be more lightly clad than others, even if the weather is cold. This can be seen, for example, in alcoholics sitting on park benches. Even in the midst of winter, they will often only be wearing a t-shirt and a thin jacket, despite single-figure temperatures. Conversely, a person with young deficiency will often meet up in the clinic wearing a thick jacket or a sweater, even in the height of summer when everyone else is walking around in a t-shirt and shorts. You should always ask yourself, is the clothing they are wearing appropriate for the climate? Are they wearing too much or too little clothing compared with other people? It is, of course, important that this judgment is made from an objective perspective and not from your own subjective feelings. If you yourself are young deficient, then you will also probably wear more clothes than others and only notice a discrepancy in people who are more scantily clad than yourself. It is therefore important to be conscious of your own patterns of imbalance. Now let's talk about harmony. Our Shen makes us conscious of what is normal and correct in any given situation. Our Shen makes us aware of and thereby helps us conform to what is expected or normal in society around us. When Shen is disturbed, the person may have difficulty conforming to this norm. The person will often say and do things that other people find strange. This can be seen in their clothes. Shen disturbed patients may have a lack of harmony in their clothing. People with an extremely disturbed Shen or people who are mentally ill can often be easily spotted on a bus or the street because their clothes are disharmonious and or to others look a bit weird. This is typically exemplified in cartoons when depicting a person who is mad. Focusing on extremes and looking at caricatures is useful training as it helps us to tune our awareness so we can spot the more subtle cases. This is useful as many of the patients we see are not over the edge wacko cartoon characters, but their Shen is still disturbed or disrupted in some way. These patients are definitely normal in their own eyes and often in the eyes of those around them, but their Shen can still be disturbed from our point of view. They have deviated from the ideal norm, and it can just be subtle differences between what we expect and what we see, or it can be more extreme. We must ask ourselves, is this voluntary, through choice, or are they unaware of their appearance? What we must be aware of is that many subcultures consciously choose to look weird or different or just adopt a rebellious way of dressing. These individuals' Shen are usually harmonious because they are just conforming to a subset of normality rather than the normality of society. Often, they are more conformists in relation to the narrow rules of their social niche than other people whom they perceive as being normal and boring. This is, of course, also a narrow line between genius and madman. It can often be difficult to see the difference in their appearance. Now let's talk about colors. Another aspect of a person's clothing we can observe is color. We can ask ourselves, is a patient predominantly and or repeatedly dressed in just one color? A preference for a certain color can be a tenuous sign of imbalance, as it is more often fashion related and thereby of little diagnostic relevance. That said, deficiency and excess pattern imbalances may affect a person's relationship with certain colors. This is because colors have an energetic resonance. If there is a certain organ or face that is deficient, a person may have an attraction to the color that is a manifestation of that face's chi. A person with a kidney deficiency condition, for example, may have a tendency or an attraction to wearing clothes that are predominantly black or dark blue. This is a subconscious attempt by the body to replenish its own deficiency of this particular resonance of chi. A person with an excess condition, on the other hand, may have an aversion to a certain color because they already have too much of this type of chi in their body. Still on colors, let's discuss drab colors and clothing. The brightness and vibrancy of a person's clothes can reflect the quality of their shen and chi. Young people often dresses more brightly than older people, wearing more vibrant colors and patterns. These clothes will also suit them better than if somebody middle-aged wears the same clothes. This is because the clothes seem more harmonious with the person wearing them. They match their chi. Many people tend to dress more drably as they get older. They become more anonymous. This can reflect the imbalances and developments that are common as a person grows older. Blood deficiency, qi deficiency, yin deficiency, yang deficiency, and qing deficiency, phlegm, and various stagnations will all mean that the shen shines less brightly because it is either unnourished or blocked. The reduced vibrancy can sometimes also be seen not just in their clothing, but also with reduced sparkle in their eyes. The vibrancy of their clothes and their eyes reflect the vibrancy of their chi. This, of course, is far from always the case. Some elderly people do wear bright clothes and look harmonious in them. However, this is usually a reflection of the quality of their chi and their shen. Drabness can also be the complete opposite. It can be a manifestation of a shen in perfect balance. The apparel and physical appearance no longer being of any importance, including being just another ego attachment. That is why, like every other sign, it must be viewed as being part of a larger pattern. We also see many people whose marital relationship or life has become stuck and ungiving, become more and more drab or boring in their appearance. A person whose life and thereby peace of mind has fallen apart. For example, a man whose wife has left him and who has emotionally imploded may stop caring at all about his appearance and often start to look disheveled. This is a reflection of emotional condition, the state of their shen. Even though this is common and understandable, it is not an expression of a shen in balance. That is the ideal norm from a Chinese medicine perspective. Similarly, when some people stop caring about their appearance, it is a reflection of them no longer caring about themselves and lacking self-worth. That is, again, telling us something about their heart and their shen. A shen blocked by phlegm and dampness can sometimes manifest with confusion and muddle-headedness. This can be reflected in the appearance, for example, shirts buttoned wrongly, different colored socks, pockets hanging out, or food stains on their shirt. It is not just an aberration from the norm that are manifestations of a pattern of imbalance. Overconformity can also be a relevant sign. The extreme tidiness and pristineness of some people reflects their controlling attitude to everything in their life and everything around them. This will often be seen in people with liver imbalances. The need to decorate themselves and conform to the latest fashion, the need to belong and conform, is for some people a sign of their imbalances. Like so many things in Chinese medicine, it is not the factor itself, for example, the flavor, the climatic influence, the emotion, or whatever that is the problem. It is the amount, situation, and context of the factor, in particular, with whether there is too little or too much. Too much control and conformity, or too little, are both signs of imbalance. This means that when patient comes through the door, we might take note of the clothing. Most often, there is nothing to see or register. It is only when there is something that sticks out that we take note. And even then, we can't necessarily use the information, but occasionally we can. This is no different from many other signs. It is the aberrations that we look for, and we only can use them when they appear part of a pattern, unless they are very extreme or are unique manifestation of a certain pattern. Finally, we must take other factors into considerations when considering a person's attire. They may, for example, be on their way to or from work, where the clothing is specified, or be on their way to and from a social function. In summary, we have here what we should observe in its significance. In wearing if a person is wearing lots of clothes, it could be the person could have a cold syndrome or a young deficiency. If wearing little clothing, it's an indication of heat. If wearing disharmonious clothing, it could mean that his or her shen is disturbed. If wearing very pristine clothing, it's an indication of liver qi stagnation. If there is predominance of a particular color, it can be a sign of a deficient condition in the zang organ that resonates with that color, but usually it is fashion related. If there is aversion to a particular color, it can be a manifestation of an excess condition of the zang organ which resonates with that color. Thank you for your attention.